Hello and welcome to this special interview from the Convention Collective, the best in convention news and updates. My name is Jeffrey Venture, and today we're sitting down with some of the cast and crew of InstaQuest. Say hello to the good people out there, InstaQuest.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, good people. Hey, how you doing?
All right. InstaQuest is a D&D game streamed to Twitch with some very unique and very awesome technology additions, creating an XR experience that I will let these wonderful folks tell you much more about than I could give detail to. But first, let's go ahead and meet these wonderful people. And I'm going to go in the clockwise order that I see them, starting with Lexi in the top corner. How you doing today, Lexi?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing
I
fantastic.
can't see your order. I think it's
Oh,
different.
yes.
On
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah, I'm top, middle, front, and center. But anyway.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lexi, also referred to as Darth Lexi or the Dark Lord. But in InstaQuest, I am Ember Yarisk, and I am a druid elf. Lots of cool stuff. Yeah, that's me. Hello.
Fantastic. Next, we have Jobo.
Hello, hey, I'm Jobo. I was the DM for that first session of InstaQuest and moving forward as well. And excited to be here, ready to talk a little shop about InstaQuest here.
Fantastic. And next up, we have Parker.
Hey guys, I'm Parker Howell. I was the director and producer on the show, and Jobo wrote the show, and then I was the one who kind of brought it all together, got the people together, and figured out how to make it happen.
Fantastic. And then we have James.
Hey guys, Jay Stone, one of the producers on this. Joe and I came up with the concept for it, and Parker's been one of our long-term friends, and we got it going.
Fantastic. And last but not least, we have Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex, or Alex Drastel. I play Ilian Bortas on the show, and I had so much fun. it's just such a blast. But yeah, I'm really excited to talk about it and give a little bit more insight on characters or story or everything that we're doing. It's a lot of fun.
Very good, very good. Yes, I'm excited to have both the cast and the crew here to talk both about the show, what's happened so far, and a little bit more of the technical elements involved with the really unique D&D streaming experience that you're creating and the big aspirations that you have for where this technology could go. So, starting right off, that was quite a first session. I binged it all in one sitting. I was very excited to see all the crazy animations that you guys brought into it. So first question is a two-parter for the cast and crew. First part is for production. Which I know is, first part is for production, second is for the cast, which I know is actually mixed in this circumstance, so parse that as you will. For the production crew that knew what secrets you had in store, which visual effect were you most excited to see to come to life in the first session? And for the cast, had you seen any of the visual effects for the attacks beforehand? Which attack or spell animation is your favorite so far?
Production, go.
Okay, production. What's really interesting about a show like this is you're creating this kind of open world experience where you're making all of these possibilities and you're trying to imagine in your mind. You're like, what are these players going to do with it live? Because the players have no idea what's going to happen, and you're building all of this content and you're buying motion capture data so that all of your characters can do all the things you want them to do, and you program these things and you just go, please let them set the spider webs on fire. Please let them figure out that they need to burn the spiders. Otherwise, we spent all this time for nothing. And then you talk with Jobo, and you're just like, Jobo, if they don't burn the spiders, then they all die. He's like, okay, yeah, we'll push them into it. So there's all these moments in the show like that, and somehow the cast found them. They found them in the moment, and they made it happen. And I'm going, yes. All right, perfect. We didn't waste all our time on this stuff.
Yeah, I was kind of a bridge of the gap between the production and the cast, of some slight subtle steering towards certain things, helping ensure we hit all the effects we had prepared. I had seen. We had a technical demo the day before where I was walking through with the crew, okay, here's what we got, we had some other people, the staff standing in. And the first time a guy, one of our PAs cast Fireball, he just like was blown away like when the lights started flashing and it showed up on the screen. He's like, "Whoa, I just did that!" And it was that kind of experience, like being on the stage and having everything kind of react to what you're saying. Is pretty crazy.
Very cool. And I'll pass that off to Lexi and Alex. What were you guys surprised about when you saw these effects pop up? What was the coolest thing that happened as far as visual effects go?
Oh God, there's just so many cool. I think honestly. Oh no, go ahead.
The sword. When you got the sword, and it just was like, oh, it was so cool. I was like, what? Because I had no idea that was gonna happen. And then a physical sword was there too. That was so cool. Or when anybody healed, there's like this. I don't know. It's so cool. And the hearts. I loved everything. I wish I liked I love my own stuff, but the sword when that first appeared was amazing.
I don't know. I really liked, like, I loved all like the effects and like the stuff. I agree. Like this, the translating from there being items on the screen and in the game, and then they're being handed to us in real life. It really kind of, you know, brings you into, like, really immerses you, which I think as for the players is really fun, but also really immerses the audience, I think, a little bit more, because they're like, oh, like, and then they actually get the skull, or they get the sword, or they get the but like for me, I think my favorite part is just literally just getting to play D&D and look around me and there be what the DM is describing. You know, like I get to look out and see the creatures, the world. I get to look around and explore the dungeon, or when we got into the water room and we got to just look around and see everything. It was just, I think I even at one point I was like, can we just take a second to appreciate how cool this is? Like, because it's like, as a player and someone who's played D&D since like they were, you know, in high school, it's just, it's so cool, and it just really brings you into that reality, and it's really cool that we can bring the audience in too and really give them a visual, because like D&D is normally just all imagination, like it's all in your head, and it's like reading a book, and so it's really cool when you can actually get a slight visual of what everything looks like. And granted, like there are things that you still leave to your imagination, like we can only do so much, but it's beautiful and fascinating, and I love it.
That's what I think is so cool with the production, is that they have all these things set up for what we can potentially do. So it's this book that's semi pre-written, but we can take it on our own journey. And so they're just prepared for us to be like, they don't know what spell I'm going to cast. And so when I do a Thorn Whip, they're like, ready, but leaves. And it's so, the first time, like, you do it, Alex, I'm sure you felt this. Like, the first time you're able to say a spell and you put it out with, like, your hand or your sword and something happens on screen, I was like, I'm dreaming. This is the coolest freaking thing as a player. And I'm sure as an audience member, seeing us do this. So it was awesome.
Absolutely. I know that I felt the same way, in that way you guys are so immersed in that setting that you are physically in. We got to be transported along with you and see all the things that you usually have to imagine after a DM describes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very, very cool.
Yeah. I think the one that really like took kind of like where I was like, whoa, was when I did use the sword for the first time and it did like the whole whirlwind effect. I was like, oh my God, that was so cool.
Very, very cool. Okay. So I think we're all very happy to be seeing that safety during COVID times has been made such a huge priority for the show, and especially knowing that you've played Dungeons and Dragons before. I wanted to ask the question of, do you feel like you were able to still play to the extent that you wanted to, still feel that full experience, which I'm guessing is a yes, since the immersion that you're talking about, despite the safety precautions that you had to have, and especially the choice to wear masks like you did during the production?
We had like a discussion beforehand, like a week before we started, we were going to do it because COVID was still a thing, and it still is a thing. And we wanted to both make sure that everybody here, like in the production and on crew and, you know, and cast, was safe, but also kind of really show an example to others and being like, hey, like if if we can do this, like, you can do it too. And, you know, like it shows that we're taking it seriously, and we wanted to do that. And that was where we decided with Jobo to incorporate it into the story. Because I feel like, as a player, I was like, it's going to be real hard to justify everybody wearing a mask unless it's part of the story. And then so we decided to make it part of the story, and I think that really helped with the immersion, and the fact that everybody's wearing one really helped be the character, and still it makes sense.
The set itself was like very safe as well. There's a lot of social distancing. It was a small knit crew. And for all of us, we had masks and gloves, and there's always hand sanitizer. I felt really safe in that we also got a test before. We got a test a week before, which was cool because then I knew I was safe. I knew the people around me were safe. We also had backup people in case we weren't feeling good the day of, which was just really brilliant on InstaQuest to make sure that safety and our health is number one priority. And I think that's incredible for Hollywood because I've been on sets where it hasn't been that way, and InstaQuest takes care of us, which is great.
That's awesome.
Kudos to Parker for initiating that conversation.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I mean, it was tricky because you're like, oh, as a director, you're like crying. You're like, we're not going to see everyone's beautiful smile. But then we're like, it's part of the story. I'm like, okay, cool. It's Miasma. It's meta. All right, let's go. I feel good about it. whatever it takes, guys. Let's just make the show already. Like,
Yeah, had to do a little bit like last minute pivot with the plot, but actually like kind of fit in pretty well with everything I've been planning for the campaign. It's just a nice little extra layer on top of everything I had planned so far.
Yeah. And I think the quality.
Honestly, sorry. Go ahead.
I think the quality of the production speaks to just how talented a crew that you have on staff, considering they were the skeleton crew. And I did want to ask as well: did you additionally have other teams working remotely in a safe manner as well to contribute to the live show that it was?
all the remote people, that was all pre-production essentially. We had all the different programmers, lighting artists, video game artists, like working remotely. But by the time the show was there, everyone had their little social distance pod from which they produced the show from on set. So it was good. It's nice when you have those giant projection map screens. It's like everyone's looking into the world of the players. Like they're like, well, how do I know what's visually going on? I'm like, well, just look right there at that giant screen.
They're huge. There's two of them, and they're huge. You're like, hello. So cool.
Yeah, we have a behind-the-scenes video up on our YouTube and Twitch channels. You can kind of see the screens in there, get a look at the set and what it all looks like and how it all came together.
Wires and screens and just an enormous space that you're working with, the affectionately named YOLO deck that I heard about there. Quite
autocorrect named it for us.
Yeah, that was just a kind of typo. I was trying to text holodeck and it came out YOLO deck, just autocorrect. YOLO deck ever since.
The YOLO deck.
Fantastic. All right, and of course, I've got to ask about some character stuff here for Alex and Lexi. You both are cosplayers, so I'm very curious what the setup looked like for getting your costumes together, and in particular, I'm curious about Scarlet. Did you make that yourself?
It's actually a friend. I had to like fix it up and modify it because it's actually a really old prop from a movie called The Sword and the Sorcerer. It was like made in like the 70s or 80s, but a friend of mine, they worked on the movie and they just happened to have it in their garage and they were like, you want to use it? And I was like, yes. And so I actually had like a before and after photo of like what it looked like beforehand, and like I had to like grind it down, shine it, make it like look like it had an edge and it was pretty, and like I added the like some of the leather and like the fur and like other like things to it to make it look better because it was in bad shape. But yeah, it was actually a prop from a movie lent to me from a friend of mine. But
Very cool.
I do make weapons. I pretty much designed and made the entire outfit as well. But the weapon was something that kind of like provided, because I was talking about designing the outfit with a friend, with my friend, and she was like, "Well, I have like," because I was talking about I wanted to use a halberd type weapon. She was like, "Well, I have one like in my garage." I was like, "What?" And so that was how I ended up acquiring that item.
Very cool. All right.
About costume makeup.
Yes.
How I took bits and pieces from cosplays that I've done before and just made a quick. She's almost like a ranger, my character, but she's not, because she's just been so much on her own. She's had to protect herself as this druid, and so she's really mobile, which is interesting because a lot of the druids I play are usually like really pretty and like doo-doo-doo. But she's really BA. I didn't know if I could curse, but I didn't. And but I think, to go back to the COVID safety, we did have a makeup artist there, but we did have the option to do our own makeup so that we could feel safer. And I think we all did, and I did mine for sure. And so everything I did was mine and made, and it was the inspiration for both of our characters are really cool. I really like Alex's story. It's like one of my favorite things. I think I've told almost everyone I know.
Oh God, have I even told you the whole story?
No, because you're not supposed to.
Yeah, I don't want everyone to know, because I feel like part of like D&D, and like especially if it's going to be like a show, is for people to slowly figure out like who you are as a character, why you do the things that you do, like what are the reasons that happen in your past that, you know, drive you or make you like your personality or whatever, you know. And like, but if you give it all away in the beginning, I feel like it's something that also the other players as characters, since it's like I've always really liked the role play aspect of D&D, and like the fighting's great, and like I've always been that person to like, you know, cater my character to be able to both do role play but also be able to be a formidable, you know, character in the battles. But like I love writing backstories, and that was actually how I decided what my character was going to be, and then wrote the backstory to fit how I wanted the outfit to look. So, because like I was like, I don't want to be the normal barbarian. I don't want to be like a total like meathead idiot. So I was like, I wanted to be something different. So I was like, what's kind of like an oxymoron of a barbarian? Okay, like the gentleman barbarian, but how do I finagle how somebody from that world becomes this? And so like that's kind of like the whole like where how the backstory process comes. It's like whether you write the backstory and then design the character, or design the character and then write the backstory to fit the character. But I know you asked about Scarlet, and I will give away one bit of like backstory information. And so Scarlet, what happens to Ilian is he gets framed for somebody's murder, and he actually eventually gets sentenced to death, and that's where he discovers his ability to rage for a reason that I'm not going to tell yet. But the Scarlet is actually the weapon that was going to be used to behead him, and he ends up taking it and escaping, and that's the weapon that he now uses.
That's fantastic, because it does look very much like an executioner's blade, right?
Yeah.
I'm like gone. I love, well, because I'm a storyteller too. So like hearing another storyteller, it's like, oh, nice, like so witty.
You didn't hear that, Lexi. No, Lexi heard that, but
Ember did not.
Okay.
Alex is one of my favorite types of players. The one who will show up to the table and be like, "Hey, here's my 5-page backstory. You know, I wrote it up. It's only 20,000 words. Real quick." I love that. I love that when the players take that agency and they're like, "Hey, here's my massive backstory for my character that'll probably get killed off in 2 sessions."
Luckily, I rolled well on my stats, so hopefully I won't die super easily.
Did poorly on mine. Got like a 6 or something.
Cool. Well, that segues perfectly into the next question that I had about world building, which we've already talked a little bit about. So the question that I have for you in the space that we're creating here, this miasma-filled world, can you tell me a little bit about the world building process, and what you did to build the story for a game for such a unique setup in a more direct fashion? Because I know that we've talked about it a little bit. In particular, were there parts of the technology involved that you really accounted for in your storytelling and that really drove it forward and inspired you?
Yeah, the setting is a homebrew world that I've been working on 10 years or so. I've run a whole campaign. There's a lot of backstory and lore is baked in from the of other players that I've played with in the past. And I always feel important to give the players a place to inject their own characters, their own kind of backstories into the world. So we were able to get that with Suno Blazemaker and his Magitech Academy and all that, as well as all the other players were able to get their stories in the world as well. As for the technology, it actually comes down like getting it actually onto screen. Is working a lot with Parker, like hey, what can we do? What can we get going on here? So there is a lot of give and take between me and Parker in translating the vision on something onto the screen.
Very good. I think we're getting some echo there, but it seems to have resolved itself. Very good. Yeah, and then the cool part as well that I wanted to ask about, because Jobo, of course, you're not the only one creating this story, and it sounds like Alex and Lexi, you contributed your own stories to the mix. What was the process like for you working around the technology that you had incorporated into how you brought your characters, the backstory that you wanted to have for your characters, the story that you wanted to tell into this world with Jobo?
It worked really well. My character she comes from a moonstone, which is literally like we found a moonstone. So it worked beautifully. So I
for one am really excited to see that pan out.
Oh, I'm so excited. I hope Jobo, likes my little essay that I wrote for him too. But I think the world is really interesting in having a character like Suno Blazemaker who is into the technology, and then characters like myself, who's a druid, totally against it, just like hates anything technological, sitting right next to each other, playing together. It's really interesting, and it creates a great dynamic for the group. Because you always want with the group a little bit of tension, make it interesting. But the world, it fit perfectly into my character build.
Very cool.
For me, it works too, especially with I know me and Suno Placemaker have our own little kind of head-to-head thing going, which I think is fantastic. I think it's hilarious. But it kind of works because I mean we haven't hit level 3 yet, but I know where I'm going with my where I'm going to be going with my character, and it is more on the not more of the spiritual side of things. And he's he escaped all this stuff, and he's been in the wilderness. I'm not once again not divulging everything, but he's been there for 3 to 4 years trying to develop and harness this power that he realized that he has as a barbarian, being able to rage. But what does that mean? How the hell do I control this? What do I do? How does this work? And so, and that was also how I kind of wanted the character to look like he'd been wearing stuff that he would normally wear as a noble, as somebody who is in the hierarchy of the world, and then went into a place that doesn't exist anymore, and how he came out of that, but still kind of maintaining parts of his old his old life, and then translating that into being in the wilderness, and then coming out of that, and what he now looks like, and now who he now is, type of deal.
Very cool. Super excited to see all that pan out. So I also wanted to ask, one of the really cool pieces of technology that you integrated, part of the mixed reality, was the Twitch voting function. And in particular, I wanted to ask, what you thought about how it ended up working out from player perspective and production perspective, and what you want to say to the audience that threw you under the bus and threw the boss at you instead of just minions.
I'm gonna give it to production first this time.
All right.
Sure. I mean, it was one of those things where, like, a lot of what we did for this first episode is I was like, okay, I see the big picture of where everything can go, but let's also come at it in like a bite-sized way. Let's give audience interaction, but it doesn't need to be the whole time. Let's just give them pieces here and there to chew on, see how it feels, and then, you know, we can reassess episode 2. So the first one was they got to choose between boss or minion with who they were going to fight next. And I was like, okay, if they choose minion, that's going to be pretty weird, right? And again, I was like, it's like, man, I'd be kind of bummed too. Like, we've had this whole boss built and this whole bit, but no, that everyone chose boss, and it was great. And it just, to see, like, as a director, to be able to go back and look at the real-time audience feedback on your show is like the coolest thing you could possibly ask for. Because generally you produce something and you throw it out in the world, and then like your friends call you, your grandma calls you up and it's like, hey, I watched it, I liked it. And you're like, cool, thanks. But to see it in real time, like when Jobo threw to the audience, like the excitement that people felt, and like the whole chat really changed after that. I really felt like people were more invested. And so I felt great about it. And it just felt like, wow, we're really making the show that's working on all these different levels. And I also just think like the potential with where we can go with it is like limitless, like really, you know, bringing people together.
Very cool. So that segues perfectly into the next question yet again, is that I'm very curious to see, it sounds like you have a great team of very technologically minded people there that are continuing to add to, I can't imagine that this vision started with all of the pieces of technology that we now see in it now. So one of the things I wanted to ask is, you know, where do you see this going next with integrating more technology in it? And how do you want to see InstaQuest evolving to make even more awesome use of this technology?
Sure. And what's really cool about the setup that we have and like this world that we're working in of projection mapping is it's very modular. It's very much can be changed and molded. For instance, when we shot this a year ago, we shot it with one backdrop, and we were doing a lot more moving camera, steady camera work where we were getting parallax in the world. But the trade-off of it was that it was kind of strange to watch, because it's like they're all sitting at the table, and even though they're seeing the enemies in front of them, the people at home are watching the enemies behind them, and then they would stand up and turn around and fight behind them. And basically what happened is during the pandemic, we lost our tech partner. So we had to start from scratch and rebuild and reimagine the entire set, which actually became a blessing, because it actually became more what I really wanted the show to be, which was that the enemies are in front of the players are engaging with them, and we have all our camera angles set up to show this whole world. So with regards to that and where the technology can go, I really want to take the next level with more motion capture, like live motion capture, working in some X-Sense suits, working in some augmented reality facial tracking. Like, we were very close on this one to being able to basically go in, take Jobo's face, and like have all the like NPCs and characters and everything react and do Jobo's face. And ultimately we just at the last, you know, a few weeks out, I was like, you know what, I've got enough to chew on this one. We'll do that episode 2.
I'll be waiting for it for episode 2.
Yeah. And so then also, like, we were talking about like, what if when they go into battle mode, we take that table that they're at and we fly it out, and now they're like they're standing, they all have this agency and walking around. And again, that was one of those things I was like, this would be really cool, it could be really fun. But part of my guiding light with how to approach this show, at least for the first one, was like, I want it to be as seamless as possible for the people playing the game. Like, we're talking about, do we want anything in their ear? Do we want to be able to talk to, you know, Lexi and these people, like, and say something? And we're like, no, let's just let them be in their world, and we'll be completely outside of that. And And so, yeah, so moving forward, I don't know. I do think there's a lot of room for going further with that virtual camera. But again, I do think there's something really important about being kind of hands off and just letting them play.
Yeah, it's one thing to play the game and be immersed in the storytelling and role playing, and another thing to also listen to someone in your ear that's trying to feed you. Yeah, that would be tough as an actor. I would think. All right.
I think I have like an idea that I don't know if like it's feasible to do, but it would also take more time for us as the cast and stuff like that. And I don't know if it's possible, but like maybe like down the line is, like you said, removing the table. But I think the way to do that would be we film the episode and then afterwards we have everybody kind of like retrack and redo the fight scenes instead of sitting up at the table and standing up and having to move the chairs and do stuff like that. Because it does feel a little bit like cumbersome as a player, would be to then afterwards reenact all the battle scenes and have individual shots of us doing all of our stuff where we can move, we don't have a table in the way. I mean, I understand that would be a lot of undertaking, but maybe something in the future, I don't know. But I think that would be really cool, and kind of like the direction you were thinking of going with, without not having a table, is having the players then suddenly, and then what you do is when you have the live show, and then you have like the YouTube show that you put out or whatever, or things that you want to post, like the post-production show that has like us in the world, like as like battle ready. So it cuts from us from the table to the character actually by themselves doing the move that they're doing or doing the spell or something like that at the monsters, or we could have like other stuff. I know it's something that would probably like take a lot more production and be down the line, but I think that would be something really cool to move towards, is having it to where you can cut from the table to like almost kind of like a real live action kind of like fight scene or something going on. But that's just an interesting idea I had. Whether it's feasible or doable, I have no idea.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
we
it definitely is feasible. We've definitely talked through it, and that was definitely at one point part of the plan. And I think as we got close to episode 1, we just kind of got back to that like keep it simple, stupid mindset of like let's focus all the energy we got on this piece of it, and then down the road maybe add some more flair.
There's so much possibilities about it, which I find so awesome.
Yeah, one of the ideas was to record everybody's kind of like have them record their spell or whatever, and then Power Rangers or anime it up and just like play that loop, like whatever. They would stand up to come around to do their thing.
Yeah, I still want to do
Morphin' time!
Oh, Power Rangers. Yep.
Fantastic. So I'm sure that the show stands on the shoulders of some very smart and technically minded people making the graphics, coordinated production, as we've talked about already, that kind of thing. So is there anyone or anything from that first session that you would want to highlight to give those wonderful nerds on your production crew the love that they deserve for making some cool things happen during that first session?
I want to give a
What's
shout
the
out
name of the
to Will
costume
Walsh.
designer?
Oh, wow,
Camila.
yeah.
Yeah, we're all like, we love everybody on our set.
I love it.
Lexi, you go first.
What's her name? Camila? What's her
Kamala.
name?
Kamala.
Huh? She's brilliant. She made Suno Blazemaker's whole costume and did a lot of the stuff for Zombie Unicorn, Natalie, and it was so cool. She did an amazing job. His wig, Suno Blazemaker's wig, is just gorgeous. He looks crazy. The pictures of him, you can check it out on our Instagram, InstaQuest. He just looks nuts, and I love it. And she did such a good job with this dragon. Oh, so cool. So she's costume designer is brilliant. I didn't personally work with her too much, but seeing her work, loved it. So shout out to her. Sorry, I'm shutting up.
Parker?
JB, go.
I'll go. Will Walsh, yeah, he was the cinematographer. He got all the camera angles, coloring dialed in. It was really masterful to work with him, and we were joking the whole time that our parents said, playing all these video games wasn't going to lead to anything growing up, and here we are, like building our own video game world with people to play in.
Yeah, with Will Walsh, he is a lifelong friend of mine, and yeah, when we lost our tech partner on this thing during the pandemic, I was just called him up. I was like, man, I don't know how I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And he's like, it's cool, man. I'll figure it out for you. and so, yeah, we just brought him in, and him and I basically budgeted out, like, how are we going to make a yellow deck? And then we went and said, okay, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to go do a test day out in a warehouse in downtown and like see if it works. So yeah, Will's a huge help.
Yeah, one of the technical engineers, Kyle, who was the one actually in the game engine, like pushing the buttons. He and I had to get like on the same wavelength. He was actually sitting directly across from me, so we like make eye contact with each other. I'm like, you ready to do the thing? Yeah, you can do it. All right, here we go. So like the day before was just us, kind of rolling through the entire dungeon and being like, okay, here's where you got to do the thing when this happens and that. Okay, you ready? And fight that we did, the little stinger after the credit, we hadn't really done the tech walkthrough at all before, so like before we went, I just got like a little nod to him, like, all right, let's do this. And we had worked on our communication enough that we were able to just get right through that, and it was pretty amazing that it all came together like that.
Yeah,
awesome.
No, the crew really just, it was really cool because like, we're in the camera, we're on the spotlight, but like none of it would happen without all the guys, behind the scenes pushing the buttons, like Jovo said, like making sure like things are timed correctly, and like some of it was like so funny and comedic, like with the motions that that the villains or the monsters and stuff would do, and they would keep pressing the button. Like,
The sigh, right? When
like,
one of the
like,
characters
I
was like,
forget,
"Oh, I'm so mad!"
yeah, like when the skeleton would be like, wow. And it was so funny.
Blazemaker threw out oil, and we somehow had like an animation for people slipping, and so we just kept spamming them. They're just going, ah.
It was fantastic. Like, it's such a just cool merriment between like just everything to come together to make what it is.
Very cool.
Everybody has like such a tension, and it's a lot because everybody on the sidelines has to make sure that they're paying attention to what we say so that they can do the action immediately. And it takes a lot of focus, and they're awesome at it. So our crew's amazing. Our other two cast members that aren't here, they were fantastic. It was Sushi Dragons, Stefan's first time playing Dungeons and Dragons, and he killed it. He was, sorry, Alex, I adore you, I love you, but he was my favorite to watch.
It's fine.
I had no idea what he was ever gonna do, and he would like randomly turn to me and be like, "Hey Lexi, can I do this?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, I think so." And he goes, "I'm Pseudo Blaze!" Okay. And then I had this like 1 second to process it, and it never was enough. He was just so and like I gotta give him love. But we had a great cast and crew, and everybody was so lovely to work with. I would 100% work with them again.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give that shout out to. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, knowing that Sushi Dragon, it was his first time. That's why we set Lexi next to him. We're like, she'll give him something to work with. Worked out perfect.
I'll give that shout out to Kamala, Will, and Kyle. I heard the names of, as well as the production crew and your cast members to make the fantastic first session that you had. I think those thanks are all absolutely deserved. So. One of the other things I wanted to talk about was, I know that one of the hopes for this show is that this format, the very safe conditions in which you're creating this show for, it becomes accessible to other Hollywood studios that are attempting to do the same, so that they can create an immersive experience that gets away from something similar to what we're doing, Zoom calls, being able to actually get there in person and supplement the experience with technology to make it still an immersive and fun thing to watch. So my question to you is, have you been putting any effort into streamlining this process, the production process, to create a model for others to produce, for anyone that's looking to do something similar to what you're trying to do?
Yeah, sure thing. I'm literally looking at offices right now that are like brand new virtual production setups. There's a few different ways that people are doing it. Some people are doing it with the LED screens. Some people are doing projection. Some people are doing green screens with live compositing. And yeah, it's just one of those things that's really interesting because I'm talking with all these other companies out there that are doing this, and they're like, yeah, this pandemic is a blessing and a curse because like production's thrown off, but ultimately we think that more people are going to want to be building their productions inside of these holodomes and holodecks. And so, you know, the thing about it is InstaQuest is really like complicated. There's a lot of things going on. And it's live, which is crazy. Just going and taking the stuff and just going and shooting a classic film or TV show on it is actually just way easier. So, I mean, we've already done.
Yeah, none of it's scripted. I had friends ask me like, was it scripted? Like, did you? We were like, no, we were making everything up as we went. Like, we were literally playing D&D. Like, there was no, you were gonna do this, you're gonna do that. When this happens, I don't know. We were all just. And so, like, I feel like that's what a lot of the complexity comes in, especially for the crew, is like, they have no idea what we're going to do, and we have no idea what they're doing. So it's like how the hell do we make this all work? And somehow we did. I don't know.
That's why I think everyone's so talented. I went into the D&D campaign thinking, like, I was going to be this character that was just going to be like super out of fighting, didn't want to do anything. And I decided while we're playing, I was like, I have to be the French. I have to tie us together because everybody was so like, no. And I was like, I need friendship. And it worked with my character, you know, it does work with her. And so it's not scripted whatsoever. And I think bringing this to other platforms in Hollywood would be super interesting. And I would love to see it. And I think, I know Parker can do something like that.
Yeah, and I think I'll skip the part because we have heard a little bit about your experience with Dungeons and Dragons that you've both played before, which is awesome, and ask you a little bit more again about the experience at the table, the fact that you are playing a D&D game while working with the technical specification that you are. What as the production crew, were you able to do to predict the sometimes erratic actions of players and be able to have contingencies for them doing the variety of things that they're doing in game? What did you do to avoid the railroading that we hear a lot about in Dungeons and Dragons campaigns?
Well, yeah, railroading can be a really bad problem, especially if the rails are very, you know, apparent. We actually had a surprising amount of freedom for the players in the game world, because we like go in and like actually pan the camera around in the world and like look at different things. I knew what we could do and what we couldn't do. For the things we could do, I was ready to, you know, help cue the production to load up the things that we needed. And for the things we couldn't do, that's where you just gotta go back on regular old DMing. You gotta be like, hey, you just describe it to them. It's impossible to have, you know, graphics and spell effects and all the fanciness for anything the players could possibly come up with.
Right.
So, you know, you put what you can on there and you kind of wing it on the rest.
I think D&D has, even as a player, and it helps production, is I know for druids or anybody who has to do magic, you have to prepare your spells before. And once you have, those are the spells you can use. You can't just like pull one out of your butt and be like, haha. No, you pick your spells and that's what you get. And I told the crew what I would like to use, and then they did it, and they knew weeks before, and it was great. I remember we had a meeting about a month before, and I was like, hey, can I have Thorn Whip as my cantrip? And Jobo was like, yeah, of course, no problem. And I was like, amazing, because it was exciting. And I think us as players being prepared and production helping us be prepared, there's not a lot of, it's just a lot of,
Also, like, as someone who's, you know, played D&D and like played a lot of video games and things growing up and like really been into a lot of that stuff, it's kind of like when you see those memes about, you know, when you walk into a room and suddenly the game gives you a bunch of potions and a bunch of other things, you can kind of assume that you're coming up on a boss fight or something like that, or the like, you see the stranger with all the like looking really weird like a wizard, but maybe he sells like you start to like, things just start to click in your head. So like as a player, and I know like the restrictions of the of the crew that I'm like, I see things or I see patterns or I see stuff, and as the player, I'm like, you know, maybe in a normal D&D campaign, maybe you'd stray a little bit more, you'd do stuff like that. But like I like when I think Parker mentioned it in the very beginning when they're talking about the spider and the spider webs, and the instant we were handed something to cast like a lesser fireball, and then I walk into a room with spider webs, I'm like, this is the plan. Like, in my head, I'm like, this is what they intended.
I know.
Like, I'm trying not to metagame, but I'm also trying to help the story along at the same time and do what I know probably production wants us to do in a way. So, like, it's a mixture of both and kind of, like, not trying to be like, well, someone just wants to send us on a mission. Well, we don't want to do that. We want to, like, go be pirates. And productions be like, what are you doing? Like, no! Like,
No, you're not a pirate! No, Org! Only,
yeah, like, and so it's kind of like trying to be a good player and be like, all right, I know where they're trying to drive us, but still make your own player decisions and your own, like, still stay true to your character, but try to follow the story that production and Jobo is trying to drive us along, so that we can still have a fun story and we can use all the effects that we want to use, but it's still organic and not scripted. Like, we still don't know what we're doing, but, you know, at least we're trying to kind of like follow the clues that they are giving us.
Yeah, in D&D, in any D&D game, even if it's, you know, not as overly produced as this, like, there's a little bit of a social contract that, like, okay, the DM has these things prepared, and if we're gonna have, you know, a good to kind of follow the story that the DM is leading us down. Because if you had like, hey, let's go play pirates, like, most DMs are going to be able to pivot and be like, okay, we're doing a pirate campaign all of a sudden, and and you know, give me 5 minutes and I'll pen this together. I've had some games go like that, and you just throw guards at them. You're like, you're in jail now.
Because of breaking the game world, we got to bring the guards in to get you back under control.
Yeah, because they wanted to be pirates, so yeah. But yeah, bandit campaigns can come around like that. But we had some players, and I knew they wouldn't really try to, you know, mess with things too much.
Yep.
You guys should incorporate pirates.
I mean, InstaQuest can be any quest you need.
Sky pirates.
Dude, we should have a sea episode.
Which is perfect for the next question, because I want to ask a little bit about how these characters are integrated into the world, and maybe Jobo, without giving away any spoilers about what's going to come next, kind of some top-level stuff about where they could go next, what kind of adventure you have in store for us as we continue to move through this miasma-filled world.
Yeah. So that sword you guys managed to find in the crypt there. Is actually a little bit more of a powerful relic than you might imagine. So there's going to be, you know, people very interested in getting that, and maybe some consequences for carrying it around, and kind of investigating what you guys have gotten in is going to be a integral part for the rest of the story here.
Alex, you can hold on to it.
I mean, I even, it was really kind of funny in the game because, like, Scarlet did not want to sit still, and it really just felt like it was mad at me for picking up another weapon and even having the audacity to be like, how dare you not use me? Because it wouldn't sit still, it wouldn't balance on the table, it wouldn't do anything. I'm just like, calm down, you know? So it's like, even my character might be like, I don't know, like, maybe I should go back to using my normal weapon and only pull out the sword when... Because apparently it has an AoE ability, which is amazing. So it's like, if I'm fighting like a single foe or something like that, you know, Scarlet's the go-to. But like, you know, if we get attacked by a bunch of enemies, you know, I might have to pull out the sword. But and I think as an intelligent person, because he has actually a pretty good intelligence. He's not very wise, but he's got a good intelligence. I feel like he might start to realize that. But I don't think he realizes it now. But if the DM like starts to put out clues of like, you know, the sword has consequences, he might be like, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be using this all the time, you know.
Did you
type
ever
of thing.
consider making that sort of cursed item there, Jobo, in your world building?
Oh no, never. I would never give a cursed sword or anything like that to the players at any time. Oh, geez, it's a little hot in here, isn't it?
So you're saying you'd like to attune to the item? Very interesting.
It's a +2 sword. I mean, like in 5th edition, that's like pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Especially at like what, level 2?
For level 2.
Oh, and it's got a cool AoE ability. Oh, you should use that all the time. It'd be great.
There's definitely no one looking for that powerful artifact. No way.
Oh no.
not at all. Oh goodness.
Very good. All right. So
I don't want to know this information.
No, I know, right? I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh, I love knowing this. Like, I love sneak peeks, but now I have to pretend I don't know it.
I know,
Wait.
as a player, it's so hard to not metagame. You gotta be like, I don't know this information. I have to act like I don't know this information. It's so hard.
You're like, what? The sword is cursed?
I know. I almost want to just keep using it and see what happens.
I'll support it. I'm here for you. To run.
fantastic. So I love the answers you guys have been giving so far. Coming to the end of our interview here. Thank you so much for being here. Finally, I'll end with asking you what you'd like to say to the adoring audience who's very excited to see Sir Ilian, Ember, and the rest of the party continue on their quest. And of course, the big question, when is the next episode?
So we're talking to production partners and sponsors to get that going.
Okay.
We're targeting, end of fall, early winter for episode 2. In the meantime, we're putting out content weekly. Lexi just did an awesome stream last night talking about becoming a druid. We have our behind the scenes video out there. We'll have some more content coming out over the next few weeks, and stay tuned. And hope to have some great news to announce very soon.
Very cool.
I don't know. I'd just like to say that this is really fun and it's really cool, and it's something as someone who grew up, being really nerdy and kind of getting made fun of for it, and then getting to do this as not only a job, but as just I feel like it's more than that. It's just so much fun. I really appreciate everyone's support on it, because the more support we get, the more that we can do, and the more that we can get creative with it. Because sadly, it's companies don't want to support or sponsor things unless it has the support, or it has the that drive from the audience. And so the more support and the more people we can get getting excited about it, and the more people who are excited to see our adventures and where we go and how we can do more with the technology and everything. So I just really want to thank everybody who is supporting us right now, and tell your friends, if you like it, if you want to see more, that's how it's going to happen. Is we need that support, and so I really appreciate everyone who is.
Yeah, sharing that first episode is such a great way to help us. The more views we get on it, the more likely that second episode will come sooner. I mean, it's going to happen no matter what, but sooner the better, right? And yeah, I want to thank everyone for watching and for loving D&D. I never in my life thought D&D would be something somebody would say oh, that's so cool you do that. Because just like Alex, I grew up being pretty nerdy, and people were like, you're unique, and I was like, and now it's just amazing, and it's something that people love, and I think together we can make it, we can make people feel better about loving the things they do, and InstaQuest is a great way to do that.
Fantastic. All right. So why don't you tell the audience one more time where they can find you? We'll start with Lexi and go around in the circle. Go ahead and get that
I just realized
plug.
it says Anna on my thing.
I was wondering about that.
I do princess character videos. Like that. Oh my gosh, I had a work meeting yesterday. Okay, I've never, anyways. I'm Lexi. You can find me at Darth Lexi on almost everything, and keep supporting InstaQuest.
Fantastic. And Jobo, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram at Balanarahl, Lanarahl.
Fantastic. And production crew, do you have some tags to plug?
Sure. I mean, you can see some of my work at parkerhowell.com. PARKERHOWELL, or Instagram at Kungfucius, KUNGFUSCIUS.
Fantastic. Thank you for spelling that out. And James.
Yeah, just I want to plug InstaQuest, instaquest.com. You can go there. You can check out the guild members, their stats. You can download their own character sheets. We have our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/InstaQuest, Twitter, Quest Insta, InstaQuest, InstaQuest TV, Facebook, YouTube. We're out there. Follow us, subscribe, like. That's where we're at.
Very good. And Alex.
Well, it's my name. My handles on everything is just my name. So Alex Drastel, you can see it right there. On Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter. I just do a lot of like nerdy. I just love putting on costumes. It's my favorite thing to do. But yeah, and also plug InstaQuest. Please go follow them on Instagram at instaquest.tv. And pretty much everywhere else. Go watch the first episode on Twitch. It's awesome. It just had so much fun. I want to do more, so go watch it. Like
All right, and you can find the Convention Collective on Twitter at The Con Collective. You can also find them at theconventioncollective.com. We're also on Instagram at The Convention Collective. I am Jeffrey Venture. You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at Jeffrey Venture as well. Thank you all for being here again. This was so much fun, and I'm so looking forward to seeing you guys get into episode 2. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Fun.